Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, I want to continue the coverage of Bryan Kohberger, suspect in the Idaho murder case. 4 young students, 4 young lives, so much life to live and give and love was savagely taken away. And the police say they have the right guy in Bryan Kohberger. The bottom line is we want justice for the Idaho 4. We want the right person put away for this heinous crime. This is a crime that shocked the nation in a tremendously big way. Everyone in Moscow, Idaho, were locking their doors in arms. They were in fear for a little while because they did not understand why this could happen to 4 young, beautiful kids with so much life to give. And so this is a very well watched story. And so Bryan Kohberger, he has been indicted where the whole process went a little faster or a little sooner than expected. And so little by little, I've been sharing what we know. So I have to continue that, right? And so let's go ahead and dive into what we know at this time. Another huge update that I find to be a big update. His sister searched his car. When this was all over the news, they started wondering, could Bryan have something to do with this heinous crime? Again, everyone knew about this crime. Everyone was talking about this crime. Even if you were not a follower of true crime stories, you were following the Idaho 4 case. Because who could do such a thing, and why wasn't he caught? Until he was caught when he was picked up at his parents' home in the Poconos of Pennsylvania. And so that's where our story leads us. Now we find out that maybe his family was starting to have their doubts about Bryan Kohberger. You see, everyone was talking about it, right? They were looking for this white Hyundai Elantra that Bryan Kohberger drives. We find out that his sister feared that he may be involved in the stabbings of the 4 University of Idaho students before police went in and arrested him in their parents' home, and they arrested him for murder. Now, we're hearing from NBC Dateline that a source had shared with them that one of the accused killers' older siblings, one of the sisters, grew increasingly suspicious of her brother and his behavior when the family had got together to spend time together over the holidays. And her suspicions were so great, it was to the point that she decided to check his car. But here's the thing. Several family members searched his car, the white Hyundai Elantra that everyone was looking for. And they told the nation to be on the lookout for this Hyundai Elantra. They believe that this Hyundai Elantra was a big key to helping solve this crime. So the family knew about this white Hyundai Elantra, and several family members searched the car. You see, as I shared with you, the 4 young students, you had Ethan Chapin, you had Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Canuto, all young. Now, Ethan Chapin was over spending time with his girlfriend, Xana Canuto. We don't know if he was going to spend the night or what the plan was, if he was getting ready to go. We don't really know all of those. We believe he was going to spend the night as his girlfriend, but maybe the fraternity had specific rules and he had to be in by a certain time. We don't know all of the logistics behind this. But we know that the three women, they had shared this home with two other roommates, and they were brutally stabbed to death on November 13th. And then the search for this car was announced almost, 4 or 5 weeks later or something like that. Why we didn't know about it sooner, we may never know. But when this goes to trial in October, we will find out so much more than we are even hearing in the news and Reddit, whatever. Wherever you're getting your sources from, there's going to be so much more. But you see, for more than 6 weeks, there were no suspects that were identified in the public. And according to the cops, they were like, we don't know anything, we don't know anything, we don't know anything. Little did we know, they knew more than they were sharing. And so to us, we thought, my gosh, is this going to go cold? Well, when they put an alert to be on the lookout for this white Hyundai Elantra, that's when a lot more eyeballs had something to look for. That's when his family got increasingly concerned. You see, his dad drove to Washington State University in December to pick up his son for the holidays. And they were going to drive back. This was a proud moment. According to the mechanics, this was a proud moment for his dad to take this long trip back from Washington to Pennsylvania, spend some time with his son. Little did he know that he was probably in a car with a murderer. And so they go on this cross-country trip together from the rental home in Pullman, Washington, back to the home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, which is near the Poconos, to spend the holidays together. But you see, during his time at home, his family members noticed that his behavior was a little bit different than usual. His behavior is a little out of whack. What is going on? And so one source shared with that, Mr. Kohberger, he was constantly wearing these latex gloves, including inside their home. Now, why would he need to wear latex gloves wherever he goes? We even hear that when they were watching him, surveilling him, he wore latex gloves. We heard about that early on. Now, one of his two older sisters began to wonder if he could have played a part in this heinous crime. And at one point, she even raised her concerns with some of the other family members. She loudly pointed out that at the time of the murders, her brother was living just a few miles from the crime scene and that he drove a white Hyundai Elantra, the make and the color of the vehicle that was at the center of this investigation. And along with this bizarre tendency to wear these latex gloves that he wore all the time, this source said that she believed that the family should consider that Mr. Kohberger might have killed the 4 victims. That's what this source, who shares this with the news outlet NBC Dateline, this source who says, hey, I know the family. One of the 2 older sisters begins to wonder if he might have a part in this. That's what the source has shared. Now, Bryan Kohberger's father allegedly defends him and says, there's no way that my son can be involved with this heinous crime. But you see, concerns were clearly big enough for other family members to reportedly decide to search his vehicle to look for possible evidence. Now, my friends, you always, you have to take it with a grain of salt, right? Who's the source? I'm going to say that the source may have a little something that is accurate through this. It's just how much is accurate. How much extra does the person throw in there? We don't know. Okay? We don't know. We just know it's a source who went to NBC Dateline. And so I'm running with that story because it sounds very plausible. Because here's the truth. A lot of this makes sense. The person's even sharing about the latex glove. That's not the first time we're hearing that. That's truth to that. We've heard that through multiple sources, through multiple documents in this case. But you always have to take it with a little bit of grain of salt, right? Because you don't really know all of this. You don't know who wants attention. We don't know if he was paid. We don't know. We don't know, right? We just know what the media is letting us know. We just know how far and dig and deep and I can find with other stuff, right? I'm still learning, but this is what we know at this time. And so it is not clear if Mr. Kohberger was aware of his family members' suspicions about him, that he could possibly be behind the murders, or what prior behavior would have led his sister to say, he's acting a little odd. Maybe he is a suspect and he's capable of carrying out such a brutal massacre. Now, soon after, in the early hours of December 30th, that's when law enforcement went into the family home, barging in and arrested him for the murders. And at the time of his arrest, the source said that Mr. Kohberger was wide awake, standing in the kitchen, wearing latex gloves and putting his personal trash in plastic bags to take it out to the neighbor's trash can. Again, grain of salt, right? We don't know how much. We're going to find out so much more in the trial. But we do know for a fact that his dad drove from this apartment all the way back to Pennsylvania on a let's do this road trip together. And so we don't know everything, but this is not the first time we're hearing about the trash can story, right? Now, an attorney close to Mr. Kohberger's family, he's not saying it. The attorney's not saying anything. So they declined to comment on this news that Dateline's sharing, right? Now, on May 22nd, he did appear in court for his arraignment. And so he appeared there. He was stoic. He barely moved a muscle. He just barely moved his legs to get there. That was really it. He was arraigned. It was sooner than expected, but he has been arraigned. And so on May 16th, that's when the jury indicted him on the charges. And so he's accused of breaking into the student home in the early hours of November 13th and stabbing the 4 students to death in a horror attack that has rocked the nation, especially that college town of Moscow. And it's literally having everyone wondering, what is next? Will he plead? Will he share anything? Now, this is not the first time that someone is not given their plea. And so, since he didn't give his plea, that's when a judge said, well, I will enter a plea in there for you of not guilty. And so that's where we're at in that indictment. The judge entered a not guilty plea on these murder charges. And so he stays there literally silent in court as the judge enters his not guilty pleas on all the murder charges. Now his trial, tentatively, anything can happen by then, is set to begin October 2nd by Latah County District Judge John Judge. Now, when the judge asked Mr. Kohberger to enter a plea at the arraignment, the defense attorney, Ann Taylor, she stands up and declines on behalf of her client. Your Honor, we will be standing silent. That is exactly what his attorney said to the judge. And so that prompted the judge to enter not guilty pleas on his behalf. And this procedure, literally 15 minutes. The judge read all the counts and possible prison sentences for each before asking Kohberger if he understood. Kohberger said yes each time. And now we wait to see what happens next. But little by little, we continue to learn more. Prosecutors, they now have about 60 days, less than 60 days left to give notice if they'll seek the death penalty in the trial that's expected to last, what they believe, 6 weeks. Now, Kohberger, he wore an orange prisoner jumpsuit, this one's red, his was orange. That's what he wore in this particular one. Now, what we continue to find out is more things. They continue to try to link other stuff to Mr. Kohberger, but we're not really finding any substantial evidence to that. So internet sleuths, you know how they have a tendency to work, it seems like almost harder than some of the detectives, but that's, I'm sure, is not the case. More the detectives are hush-hush, where internet sleuths are, some are way overboard and some do great work. But a family of a missing Pennsylvania woman called the cops after they were alerted by internet sleuths that Mr. Kohberger has lived in the area where their loved one, Dana Smithers, who was 45 years old, she went missing on May 28th of 2022, which is not very long ago. And so she went missing, but no one knew anything about her since. And when it came to that particular part, of course, internet sleuths, they do a lot of work and they're always seeing internet cases. Literally, it's a big deal for them in many cases. So when you really think about that, that is, hey, guess what? Here we have another one. Another one where, is this person the one that could have been associated with Mr. Kohberger? We really don't know, but I'm going to share that with you anyway. And so Dana Smithers' parents, they contacted the law enforcement. They're like, hey, Bryan Kohberger was living in the area around this time. This young lady, Dana Smithers, she disappeared about 30 miles from his parents' home in Pennsylvania. Now, 45 years old, very young, was last seen on May 28th, 2022 on her ring footage of a home. I think it was her home, walking away from this ring footage. She has not been seen since. Of course, the internet is always doing their work, right? And so now we find out that, hey, he was living around there around this time that she went missing. But the hiccup being, no one really knows. You can see her leaving. Oh, it's going to play a commercial first. You can see her leaving. I'm sharing this article with you from Daily Mail. And you can see her leaving from this Ring doorbell. There she goes, taking off. Okay. Now, I noticed that she's looking back and forth, like she's expecting somebody. What did you think about that? Did that catch your attention at all? But that's how I took it. Okay, is she looking for someone? Now, that's where it's like, okay, could he have anything to do with this? I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I don't think so. But this is out there. And it's even a little deeper because his parents are set to actually testify in that case. Now, again, she went missing on May 28th of 2022. Her remains were uncovered in a wooded area in Stroudsburg on April 27th of 2023. Not very long ago. Actually, what, a month ago? This is about 30 miles away from Kohberger's family home in Albrightsville. Now, Smithers' sister, Stacey Ann, she posted on Facebook page Finding Dana on January 2nd, thanking those who have been reaching out regarding the possibility of the suspect in the horrific murders in Idaho, having been in their area, living there around the time of her sister Dana's disappearance. And she added, I have forwarded all of your suggestions onto the law enforcement, and so asking them to look into this. Kohberger's parents, Michael and Marianne Kohberger, they're appearing in front of a grand jury in connection to Smithers' disappearance. And so, of course, that's going to be attention grabbing, right? Because investigators are trying to determine if their son could possibly be involved in this. I'm going to tell you, my hunch is no, but I could be wrong. A source told News Nation that his alibi proves he likely wasn't involved in her disappearance. She was last seen in the Ring camera footage at around 11 p.m. on the day that she went missing. Now, at this time, her cause of death is still unknown. But Kohberger, who again is charged in the murders of the University of Idaho students, and so that's where it's like, wow, come to find out he actually lived with his parents around the time of her disappearance, which is only 30 miles from where she disappeared. Now, his dad, Michael, is expected to testify in court today, while Marianne, she's already testified today as of May 25th. I should clarify that. Now, the transcript will possibly be available later. It's not available yet, where we're going to have the questions that they're asked, what their response is. The suspect appeared in Idaho court this past week, where he enters his plea, where he didn't really enter a plea, as I shared with you. But do you think that he has anything to do with that? I'm going to say no. We do know that his DNA was found on a K-bar knife, so they have his DNA, right? But that K-bar knife is very strange in its of itself. Like, literally. It's hard to even understand that. But now we wait to find out more, my friends. I'm Manny Rodriguez, and this has been another episode of Deep True Crime. Rest in peace to these 4 young Idaho students taken from this world way too soon. This is not about Bryan Kohberger. This is about getting justice for these 4 young kids who were taken for no good reason at all, in one of the most shocking crimes we have heard of in a very long time. I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you again. Peace.